Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unseen Paranormal. I am your host, Eric Freeman Sims, as usual. Hope everybody is doing well. Want to say thank y'all for tuning into the show once again. Hopefully y'all are enjoying the guests and the episodes. If you are, please throw me a comment or shoot me a private message or email or something, and let me know that you're enjoying the show. If you want to hear more of one type of guest versus the others, let me know. Seems like y'all are enjoying the mix of topics and guests that we're having, so we'll continue with that. But it seems like the Bigfoot and the cryptids here lately have been getting a lot more downloads. But anyway, enough of the business of that. This week I want to talk about feeling like you're stuck in a hole. Have y'all ever felt that? Like, I've been in that rut lately, and I think it's the winter. I think it's the winter time and the bleakness outside and just not getting to go outside and be in nature and kind of refresh in that way, you know, like connect with the earth and kind of refresh. Because I love doing my landscaping and like getting my hands in the dirt, and I'm always barefoot anyway because I want that connection with the ground all the time. I don't know. I hate socks. I don't really like to wear shoes unless I have to. So I'm always in flip-flops or barefoot. And I just feel like I'm in this rut lately, especially the past couple of weeks. And like I go out and do things, go hang out with my friends and have a good time. And me and Roger, my husband, have gone out and, you know, go to dinner and stuff. So I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm depressed, but I just feel like I'm in a fucking rut. And it's just like, it's the same shit over and over. You ever get that way? That's just kind of how I'm feeling. And so I got to kind of kick myself in the ass and be like conscious of it to make myself get up every day and, you know, be active and do something. Cause I don't know, it just makes me feel like I just want to sit and play fucking video games or something. It's like, fuck the podcast. And I don't want to do that because I enjoy doing the podcast. I love talking to the guest. And I may be in a funk like all day, but as soon as I get to record with a guest or I get to come in here and talk to y'all, like I just light up and it just gets me excited and refreshed. But some other days I'm just like, fuck it all. I'm playing Assassin's Creed all day. So I don't know if y'all feel that way. This time of year always gets me. I hate it. I'm looking forward to later on this week. We're going to have some, by the time this episode comes out, it's going to be like 70 degrees here in Middle Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to that and getting out in the sun and maybe starting to work on my landscaping. Anyway, enough about that. But I just wanted to, because I think everybody else can relate to, this time of year is just like sucks. Just like this. And I think they call it seasonal affective disorder, but it just sucks. It just fucking sucks. So that's my rant for the day. So anyway, today we have two awesome guests. This was such a fun conversation. These two ladies are amazing. I love what they do, and both of them are amazing. We had so much fun talking, and I can't wait to go on their podcast and talk to them again. You know, we talked about some serious stuff on the show. We laughed, and I found myself laughing as I was editing as well. And I always love these episodes that I enjoy going back and editing as well. So without further ado, we have Crystal and Carol from the Ghost Hunting Housewives, and their links of course will be in the show notes if you want to go check out more of what they've got going on their YouTube and on their Facebook and all that stuff. So y'all enjoy the show, and thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. All right. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Carol.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
And that was my phone reminding me I was recording with y'all. Let me mute my phone real quick. Sorry. All right. Always something. But yeah, thanks for joining us today. We've been trying to schedule this for a while. And unfortunately, I think, Carol, you had COVID when we did our expo last year. So
yes, yeah. I did.
So y'all didn't get to come. We didn't get to meet. But yeah, we've been trying to schedule this for a while. Been excited to talk to y'all. I think it's cool, a lot of the stuff that y'all have going on. And I always like to start out. So we'll start out with Carol. How did you get started with your interest in the paranormal and investigating?
Well, actually, when I was young, we lived in Alabama. We lived in an old house, and I'll have to say it was haunted. And I would feel things, see things, hear things, but I never told anyone. And then many, many, many years later, I still experience things like different feelings, kind of, I don't know how you explain them sometimes.
Yeah.
How people pass,
Yeah.
I take that on and I don't see things, but I met Crystal. Geez, it's been over 20 years, right, Crystal?
Almost 22 years. Yep.
Yeah, almost 22 years. And we got to talking. We both worked at the same place in a bar, and it was haunted. And we got to talking, and I finally found someone I could tell my story to, because she's had all kinds of crazy experiences her whole life. And we just started talking, and then we started investigating.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a relief because, like I said, I never got to tell anyone, and I've been on this earth for a long time. I won't say how long.
Mhm.
And then to find Crystal and she have the same experiences, and like I said, we just got to talking, and here we are today.
Yeah, it's awesome when you finally find that voice. Especially, I talk a lot on the show about being an empath, and I was kind
Right.
of I've investigated since I was a teenager and kind of open about that my entire life, but it's in experiences I've had. But as far as the empath stuff and feeling stuff and things like that that are just out of the realm of trying to explain, I was quiet with it until, especially when I started the show 4 years ago. That's when I really started talking about it and being open and
Right.
honest with, this is what happens to me. Y'all can think I'm crazy if you want. I really don't care. And
Right.
yeah, and it took me until I was like, 35 to start talking about it. And I've been haunted my entire life. So yeah, I feel for you, like, keeping quiet about it.
Oh yeah, I thought I was crazy. I was 32 maybe when I finally got to say it out loud,
Yeah.
and it was a relief.
Yeah. Well, and especially to find a community that doesn't think you're crazy, that embraces
Right.
it and wants to hear your stories, like, and also your experiences. Like when you go investigate somewhere, having somebody there that's like, okay, what are you feeling? Not
Right.
necessarily like evidence, like hard evidence, like we think of EVPs and things, but I think your body is another tool to investigate with anyway.
Oh, it is. And
Yeah.
Crystal just knows. She knows me. We know each other like very well.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's a psychic type thing. I don't know, how to explain it, but she knows. And I know when she's feeling something, even like if I have a headache, she'll call me. Could you take something for that headache, please? I have a lot of things to do today.
That's awesome. I have that with my husband. We've been together for 18 years, and
Oh, wow.
out of nowhere, we'll be quiet in the car for like 10, 15 minutes. And then one of us will come up with something that's just off the wall. And the other one will be like, I was just thinking that too. And it's just
Yep.
something that's impossible for both of us to be thinking at the same time.
Yep. That's how
Yep.
me and Crystal are.
Yeah.
Telepathic tendencies.
Yeah.
Very.
I think it's awesome. And my husband's he's just like, yeah, it's that weird thing we do. So,
Yeah.
but Crystal, how did you get into investigating?
I started at a young age, like Carol said. My father passed away the day after my 1 year birthday. And as a young child, infant almost, just reaching my toddler years, I would have dreams of his death and how he died. So it was an astral plane. My family, it passed down from generations. Most of my family knew how to handle it. So when I started going off on the random ghosts at the end of the hallway, no one was quite surprised. It happened my entire life. So, I was always that one that, checked out 13 Ghosts of Alabama and Jeffrey 2, all those fun Southern ghost story books from the library.
Yeah.
Just learning everything that I possibly could. And about 8, 9 years old, I ain't gonna lie, I was at church. And another friend of mine, he had, the same types of experiences. So we started talking and chit chatting. By the time we were 12 or 13, our favorite hangout in the small town of Alabama was going to the graveyards and to the historic locations. Being from South Alabama, there was a lot of historical places that we could go and wander, and a lot of ghost towns, so to speak. So it was easy for us to go out and actually explore. At that time, we really didn't know what we were doing. We just knew what we were feeling
Right.
and experiencing. So by the time I was 16, 17, later in high school, I'm not as old as Carol. So, later in high school, junior to senior year, Ghost Hunters had been into their second, third season. So we were learning things and experiencing things. And it was exciting to see this on TV because, you had like Sesame Street and stuff. So you didn't get to experience until we had the breakthrough of taps on television. So he and I really jumped into it big time. I graduated high school and moved to Florida, which is where I met Carol at a bar. And we were like, we're going to be best friends. And here we are almost 22 years later. We've been traveling, experiencing this for almost 22 years. And I mean, we're far from professionals, but we have fun with what we do. And we love learning from everyone else and helping others, helping historic locations. And we've learned a lot over the years. And, I just look at it that we all come together in such an awesome community where we can all, bounce ideas off of each other and just have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you mentioned the history, because that's a huge part of why I do investigating as well. And I think it's a lot of us are really into the history. And I love how on your about section on your website, that's one of the big things in there is historical preservation. That's something that's near and dear to my heart as well, is helping these historic locations tell the story, but also, help keep their doors open.
Definitely. And that's one thing that we truly enjoy doing is fundraising to help save these properties and making awareness of the government and the communities that are demolishing historical places. They're not all on the National Registry or the State Registry of Historic Places, but they very well could be, and they could very well be saved.
Right.
I've worked on multiple historical societies, and Carol knows that my passion lays with the history, and it always has. I was raised by my grandparents. So being raised from somebody who experienced, the 1930s, the 1940s, and hearing stories from the late 1800s and, early 1900s from their parents was something that a lot of people today didn't get to have that full time. So that's why I sought my career in historical research and genealogy. So you give me a location and I will take it back to, Europe. I'll take the family back to Europe. So, I mean, it's just what I love to do. And Carol, she's our tech person. So we, and then we have Tuck, who is our newest member of the team. And, she is equipment manager, and she's also a historical researcher with me. So we just have fun, and we just enjoy not only each other's company, but everything that we do. So,
yeah, we all get along perfect. We're all related, actually.
We're all related distantly. We just we dug into the genealogy of ourselves and started plugging in, and come to find out that Carol and I, after all this time, are related. And then we found out Tuck is also, that's my phone that time. And it's one thing to be able to have somebody that you're friends with, but another thing to be able to have somebody that you're related to distantly, because you still have that awesome connection that you wouldn't have if you weren't related.
Right. And to, just come together out of nowhere years ago and then find out that you're distantly related. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And like I said, I'm huge into the history as well. So that's cool that you've made a career out of it too. Of looking at history, but I think the history is important. I think we're starting to get that point across to historians and to these historical societies. A lot of them are starting to pay more attention to the paranormal, and I think learning that maybe they can get some answers, through us investigating of things they didn't know, and learn more about the people that live there And that's probably my favorite part of investigating, is the fact that we may have the opportunity to connect with these people that lived 100, 200 more years ago. And
100%.
and hear part of their story that nobody else knows, or get names and things. And sometimes those things line up. And that's my favorite part of investigating, is when you get things.
It.
Yeah.
And I try to withhold a lot of it that I find, and Tuck will withhold a lot of the stuff that she finds, just to see if other members of the team, so if Carol was to get a feeling of how someone died, or if I was to get, a vision or an audio message from somebody who passed away that Tuck had researched. So we like to see how it all intertwines and how it all comes together too.
Yeah. And what kind of tech do y'all use? Because I'm a very low tech guy, like we were talking about. I like to use my body as an instrument, and for me,
100%.
Yeah, for me, things like EMF meters and things like that, because they're fallible, I tend to just not have anything to do with them. I think they can be used. I'm not saying that people that use them shouldn't, or that you can't get any evidence with them. I don't know. I'm more of a, I guess, purist when it comes to video and audio and those types of things.
Right.
And we do tell everyone, Carol and I have both said, the best piece of equipment that you can have, and this is when we're leading ghost hunts, or working on a class, or giving a panel at a paranormal convention, whatever it is, that the best piece of equipment that you could ever use is yourself.
Right.
Because you know yourself better than anybody else. You know your intuition better than anyone else. So if you're feeling goosebumps or uneasy, or you're feeling like you're being watched, 99.5% of the time, it is 100% because you're being watched.
Yeah. Well, that even goes to everyday life. If you're in your office or something, and somebody just comes up, stands in the door, and you don't hear them or anything, you just have that innate sense that somebody's watching you.
Right.
And so why couldn't that switch over? And science can't explain shit like that. So why couldn't that switch over to the paranormal,
Exactly. And that's why we like to tell everyone, mark what you're feeling, write it down, note it. If you're in an EVP session and you're, someone's recording and you feel something, or if Carol has she has tendencies to get pow to the head when she's investigating by spirits. So we like to mark those things, because, that is something that can definitely help when we're going back through evidence and saying, okay, well, she felt this, and we heard this, and Crystal received this message, and then we try to tie it all in together. And that's why we're not all about putting out videos and, oh, look what we caught, look what we found, because in all reality, we could do that. We could do that all day long, and we could, have hours and hours of YouTube videos, but that's just not what we're about. We're out there trying to connect, and more so for ourselves, and then helping others understand that you don't have to it doesn't have to be all about your content creation and what you're are you going to get, 10,000 new followers this week?
Right.
That's just not what it's about. There's people out here who've been doing it like Carol and I for so long that, it is what it is. If you like our content, awesome. If you want to follow us, cool. Maybe we'll see you around at a Paracon somewhere, and, we'll shoot the shit and just have us a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also being part of the paranormal community, to me, is the networking and things like that, and getting to know other investigators, because I've learned so much over the years from, investigating with other people, and just talking about investigating with other investigators, and even doing the show here, talking to different teams. That's why I love having different teams on, and I'm not just going for the para celebrities and shit like that. Like, I want to talk to the people who are actually out there doing the work, because of the different perspectives.
Right. Well, it's like a big extended family too.
Yeah. But I can learn something from y'all in a way that y'all do something different and take it to my next investigation and maybe get better results because of it.
Yep. And I think that's the big part of it. I love the networking. Carol can tell you, you give me a Paracon and you will hear me over everybody because I love people. I love networking and making new friends, and we're like, yeah, let's get together. Let's do this. And Carol's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, you heard Crystal because she's very loudmouth of the South.
Well, like I always say, Crystal's the talker, as you can tell. And I'm always like, we'll let Crystal talk. If you want to learn how to build something, or then talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to build things. I like to tear things apart, see how they work.
She likes to set things on fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That can be fun sometimes.
But it is definitely, where we have everything balances within the team, and it just flows so freely that it's just, we have fun.
Yeah, yeah. And going back to what you're talking about with using your body as an instrument, I think I've even seen some of the least empathic, intuitive people who investigate, they still eventually get that. Well, I call it investigators. The word went out of my mouth. You get this feeling when activity's going on in a room. When you walk in there as an investigator, after a long time, if you're going to get activity in there or not, just by the feeling of the room.
Right.
So when you walk in, and even like I was saying, even the least empathic investigators I know still have that innate ability to say, all right, well, the energy's gone out of here. I don't think we're going to get anything else.
100%. And most of the time you'll find me sitting in a corner somewhere. If I walk into a building, I'm like, nope, don't feel it. There's nothing here. There's nothing that's wanting to communicate with us here, or is something that we can easily debunk in a single night. I'm just like, yeah, you'll find me sitting over in a chair somewhere, letting them, investigate and see what they can catch. And then, try to help them understand that, it can easily be debunked by this or that. And we found some other teams that are the same way. So that's what we enjoy, is that we can walk into a place and be like, yeah. But we go to another place and it's like, oh my goodness, you need to sleep for 5 days because, me and Kim Sage call it a psychic hangover.
That's what I was saying today. Yeah. We have ghost hunting hangovers right now. We had a busy week last week and weekend. I'm still like drained, completely drained.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird like that.
Yeah, that paranormal hangover is crazy. And some places, like you're saying, are worse than others. Some days it's, takes a day just because you didn't sleep all night. You just got to catch on your rest. And then other places just zap you, especially when you're getting crazy activity at a place. I find if I go to a place and I think it's flat, and even if I think we're not going to get anything, that challenges me, I think, to try to ramp the activity up.
Right.
I do have ADD, so I do get bored after about 5 or 6 hours if I'm not really having anything,
I get bored too. And you'll find me running in what the girls call putting my Crocs in the 4-wheel drive. There's that Southern accent coming out. But they're like, oh, there goes Crystal. She's got to run off that energy, because I get so much energy built up in me that I don't even realize that I'm like a mile ahead of them when they're walking. I'm just like gone.
Well, that's fine, because if we fall down, she won't wait for us anyway.
If Bigfoot comes after, I already told the girls I'm gone. Like, no, y'all can go looking for Bigfoot and banging on trees and hitting things together. No, Crystal has been hunting her entire life, and there are things out there that I want no part of, like hogs and and rabid bobcats. Carol.
What? Well, we didn't get mauled. We're good.
I didn't get out of the car because I'm smart.
Here lately, I've had a string of guests talking about Bigfoot and cryptids and dogmen and things. And the episode that I'm actually putting out this week that we're recording this is actually about Land Between the Lakes, if you've ever heard of that, between Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yep.
And there's a lot of dogmen stuff up there. And this guy, Steve Causey, wrote a book called The LBL Massacre. And supposedly back in the 80s, there was a big cover up from the police and even the federal government of this family being mauled to death by a dog man.
Oh, wow.
And so my motto lately has been, every time I do one of those shows, at some point in time, I tell my audience, like, and this is why Eric doesn't camp.
This is why I will camp, but I'm not going to do it with these girls because they're all like, here, kitty, kitty.
No, that's tough. She wants to bring them home. I'm like, I just want to see it. I don't want to be eaten.
I don't want to see it.
But I do want to find
Bigfoot. That's what Google's for.
I look for Bigfoot everywhere we go.
I just, that fabric is just not going to protect me from anything that wants to eat me.
Right.
So I'm just not, I'm not into camping. I'm just not a camping person. Now, I love to go hiking. I love going to national parks and things like that. And, but I'm out of there, when it gets dark. That's the only place where I can be eaten by something that wants to eat me.
We did some serious hiking this past week.
We did over 4 miles in complete darkness.
Oh, wow.
Just to get to one spot.
Just to get to one spot because, well, we didn't really look. They left the gates open for us, but we were just all about the experience.
Right.
And, they're like, oh, it's just a possum. I'm like, yeah, they got rabies too.
Yeah.
Like, I got nothing here to protect me. Nope. I'm not okay with this.
It was complete darkness, but it was awesome.
It really was the experience in it. And, that's one thing that, like Carol said, is the experience, but it's adding into the experience as well. For instance, we were at a battlefield and, it was an honor for us to be there as, both Carol and I are, my grandfather who raised me, Carol's father, both served. My pop retired from the Navy. Carol's dad was Vietnam as well. And, we experienced that. I'm a military spouse. My husband's active duty. So getting to experience and, it was just an honor to be able to stand on a battlefield where, men fought here in our country. And what we did to end the night is we played taps and we just took a moment of silence because you have to give respect back to, the location and the spirits that are roaming there. Wherever you go, it's, a respect situation and giving that respect and taking a moment of silence. And, when you're investigating as well, just sit there, take it in, don't say anything, close your eyes, focus on the location. And we get more evidence just by sitting there in pure silence than we do asking questions.
We always end an investigation that way.
Mm-hmm. It's just paying our respects and, letting them know that we are thankful that, they allowed us to come in and they didn't, they weren't afraid to communicate with us. And, just that moment of silence and letting them know that we mean no harm and we do want to try and help save this location to prevent it from being torn down and, our respect for the land that we walk upon and investigate.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing too with me is the respect of going in to all these different places because like you said, it's a privilege for us to see these things and to be let into some of these places and get to see things that other people don't normally get to see. And we get to go into some of these places that other people don't get to go into as well. And yeah, it's a privilege and we should be thankful and showing respect. And I always try to start off every investigation, when I walk in, introduce myself and say, we're here out of respect and we just want to talk to you. Want to tell your story, whatever you have to say, and try to give you a voice and kind of honoring the dead in a way that to say that it doesn't matter that you're not some big historical figure. There's still people out here that want to remember you in your life and what you did in your life, even though you didn't do some grand, anything necessarily. But you lived and that's enough for us to want to tell your story and hear you.
Correct. And that's how we feel.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite locations? Cause y'all have been to many, many different locations. What's some of your favorite? I know that's always a hard question. It's a hard question for me, but I get asked it all the time as well.
Well, you could probably tell by our social media. I would say top one would be the Poly Jail.
Yeah, we love that poly jail.
Yeah.
Our favorite location is in an entire city. Would be Savannah.
Yeah, Savannah.
We went to Savannah back in 2021. We were there for a week, and it wasn't long enough. We had someone that we met in the Colonial Cemetery there, and she, at the time we thought she wasn't over there, like, ooh. But she's like, when you get this bug in your ear and it makes you only think about Savannah and you always want to go back, and those people end up moving here and their whole life is just surrounded by Savannah. And they're like, yeah, right. No way. She was 100% correct. We have, ever since we investigated the Savannah Theater with Truth and Evidence, and we investigated the cemeteries, and we stayed at the Marshall House, that place has just tugged at us to come back. Let's go. Do it again, So Savannah is definitely, I would say, the city. And it also, both mine, Carol, and Tuck's family are all, Georgia settlers from the 1700s. So it's like our lineage goes back to South Carolina and Georgia coast.
Yeah.
But we love that Savannah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Savannah is amazing. I've been there. Unfortunately, I have not got to investigate Savannah, but I have been to the Sherrill Weed House and a bunch of the cemeteries and things.
Oh, we need to change that, Eric. You've got we should just plan this, and you just come over there, and we will introduce you to some of our places. It is one of the most amazing cities. And being a military spouse, I've traveled all over, but Savannah just tugs at us to come back.
Yeah, I would love to investigate just the history. I was just in awe of the history to go to this Sherrill Weed House, which is such an iconic house, and to go to some of the cemeteries and see these beautiful cemeteries and just the aesthetic of Savannah is just amazing. Walking down the streets with the Spanish moss and, going to see, we even went to, the park where they filmed Forrest Gump on the bench.
We did too.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's a lot better, too, when the person looking at the map is not looking at the driving one. I took Crystal on a car trip when we were walking. I forgot to hit the walk button, so we were like, oh, we did a complete.
She would say, oh, it's only 2 minutes from here.
And we'd go down all these streets. I'm like, I think, oh, look, we're supposed to be driving. It was a mess.
So far, the city like that for me is definitely St. Augustine, Florida. We vacationed there like 2 weeks a year for like 5 years in a row when I was a kid. And I just fell in love with the history and the city and just the city itself. And I was fortunate to go back a couple of years ago and actually investigate the Castillo de San Marcos, the big fort, and got to investigate the original Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, and got to walk around the streets and go to the couple of cemeteries and investigate. And it's just amazing. That place, for whatever reason, has always had a place in my heart. I'm a Nashville native, and I will never live anywhere else because I just love Middle Tennessee. But if I ever did move anywhere else, it would probably be St. Augustine. For whatever reason, I feel a connection to that city, and like I said, the history is phenomenal. The spirits are amazing, and the stories are phenomenal as well.
And I love Middle Tennessee. I spent a lot of time there. I started singing when I was 4 years old. So a lot of times when you watch our videos and stuff that are released, you'll just hear me break out in song because it's like a siren song for the spirits, we call it. And so I spent a lot of time there in Middle Tennessee, and the locations are phenomenal. I mean, they have so many gorgeous places, but being able to go to the Ryman Auditorium and, all of those locations there. It was one of my favorites growing up, and, in my early adulthood, I spent a lot of time there in Nashville. So.
Yeah. There's a huge history around here too, with Nashville being kind of founded back in the 1700s and the Civil War. You had the Battle of Franklin, which is a crazy story in and of itself. But yeah, some of these places would be great if they opened them for investigating, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, there's a location that we love down there where Carol lives at in Louisiana, St. Francisville, which is, many know of St. Francisville as Myrtle's Plantation. But
Yeah.
I mean, we like Myrtle's. One of the best EVPs that Carol's ever caught is just going on a date night at the gazebo with her husband and just catching EVP. And but there is a cemetery there, and the Grace Episcopal. It is absolutely phenomenal, but you have the history there. And it was one time during the entire Civil War where the Union and the what was it, Carol? Both sides ended up halting due to a Union officer dying. Both they decided to stop the war entirely, and it was the war was going on in the middle of what is now the cemetery.
Yeah.
The church was actually there at the time, and people were hiding in these vaults and behind these trees and stuff in Louisiana. And the war actually stopped fighting to bury the officer who was a Freemason. And both sides, the Confederate and the Union, both were there at the Masonic funeral for this officer.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy story.
Yeah. And also, where else would you learn that history?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned so much history about Middle Tennessee and Tennessee and even Southern Kentucky, because going up there and investigating of stories that they don't teach you in school, that you never see in a history book, of these incredible things like that happening and showing the humanity of something like that.
Right.
And yeah, how people were fighting against each other, but they were still divided of why they were fighting and who they were fighting. And,
but could have easily stopped for one day, stop fighting just to make sure that a officer in the Union Army who was, 10 states away from his home state was able to be buried and, correctly. And the Freemasons from both sides came together to be there at his funeral. It's like, I mean, we look back at the life we're in today and the times we're in today, and, being a military spouse, I can tell you that isn't something that would happen today.
No, not
people don't, you just don't hear of that. But again, those are things that we aren't taught in history class, that, public schools do not teach us. We lost so much because they wanted us to, learn what they wanted us to learn. And anything else, we were required to do it on our own. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like I said, hearing these different stories and finding things out is definitely a huge motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by my grandparents as well. And that's a motivation for me, because my grandfather died when I was 14. And I was into the paranormal stuff, and I've had experiences. My first major experience I can remember is when I was like 8, but I've had experiences my whole life. And when he died, it kind of threw me into trying to figure out what happens after we die. Like, did he just not go anywhere? I wasn't really raised religious. They let me make up my own mind. And so it was kind of seeking that out. And that kind of got me into an entire life of paranormal. Also, I'm fucking haunted. So, I mean, I have shit happen almost every day in my house, and being an empath and feeling people's energy and things too. So I can't really get away from it. But as far as investigating, that's what kind of threw me into investigating as well.
Yeah, they, and I think, going back to, because I know you and I, Eric, have both had like the same even work life in the past, with, the medical field and running EMS and, those sorts of things. And being an empath or, a psychic, you constantly feel how someone is what they're going through. And it's almost like you have to learn how to shut down before, you go into any incidents like this or any situation, so that you don't completely tap yourself. And, that's a big thing when we look at, our gifts and our talents is, we have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think working as a medic on the ambulance and in the ER, I think being an empath definitely was a plus.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a double-edged sword. I think it was a plus, but also think it was a minus, because I think that it built up, for me, it built up over the 15 years that I was a medic, and to the point that I ended up with PTSD and anxiety and things. And I think so it was a double-edged sword, because I took all that on, but I never kind of got rid of it.
You never got, and that was me.
Yeah. And so it kind of chewed me up and spit me out. That's what it kind of felt like.
Yeah. And most people, you know, they are like, who aren't like us, they can go out and they can do this until they're completely broken at 50, 60 years old, you know, but, you know, here we are still very young, and we had to retire out of it because it completely drained us. It completely, you know, like you said, it just gone, because it completely sucked us dry. And we didn't do anything with it, you know, with all of that we were taking on. We weren't, you know, we were holding on to it. Every loss, every child, you know, all of those things that we dealt with in the back of an ambulance and in, you know, a trauma room in the ER, we continue to have those sorts of things. And it's very, very difficult to have PTSD and anxiety and depression and still, you know, I think a lot of us go through, because you do see a lot of people with PTSD and anxiety and depression in the paranormal field. And some of us have been, you know, have been in love with the paranormal, or, you know, enjoyed researching the paranormal even before we had any of these issues. But I think that there's so many of us that is also brings us together to where we're a community on so many different levels, and there's so many different types of people in our community, and we can accept everybody.
Yeah. And I was in medicine for a total of 20 years because I have other certifications, and I worked as a medical assistant and a nurse tech. And so, you know, a couple of years ago when I retired from medicine, I just felt completely broken and broke down. My body is shit. Every joint I have is worn out.
Oh yeah,
I know the feeling.
We know that feeling, and it's not just because we wrecked vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? In the end, I don't know. I came out of it thinking, what did I really get out of that? Like, you know, I helped a lot of people and hopefully did some good in the world. But what did I really get out of it? You know, other than health issues, mental issues, and my body falling apart.
Knees are broken, shoulders hurt, elbows hurt. Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, but I do think that is something that brings so many people in this community together, is that we can be broken and we can have a lot of problems, but we're all together in this. And that's how I really explain the paranormal community to even my in-laws. You know, they're religious, and they go to church, but they don't understand my life and the way I live. So, you know, it's just one thing that I explain to them, that our community isn't just about going out there and investigating locations and, you know, talking to the dead or anything like that. Like, we are a community, and we lean on each other and we network together. And, you know, we could never meet each other face to face, but it's one of those that, hey, you know, if Eric's having a problem, Crystal's there. You know, and if, you know, Dooflinky over in Washington State's having a problem, Carol will be there to listen. That's just the type of people that we are, and that's the community that we have. And I love being a part of a community like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I hear lately I've started opening the show here with talking about mental health and just being a lot more honest with it. And I tell people, you know, these are my opinions and my experiences, but to me, if you don't want to hear it, just fast forward to, you know, 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of the show, because it's therapy for me as well to talk about this shit and to put it out there and say, I've gone through this. And, you know, a few years ago, I never would have talked about my mental health, and because I put on a great facade that I was all good, you know, and now it's just like, if I can help anybody else, that one day that they put on the show and they hear the mental health message for that day or whatever I'm talking about, if they can resonate with that and feel like they're not alone, then it's all worth that 3 or 4 minutes of me talking about my own shit. And also I feel like that about the paranormal too, about having a show like this. We can talk about all this stuff in I hate to say safe space because I think that's thrown around way too much, but in an atmosphere that nobody's going to judge.
In a fun space.
Yeah.
In a fun space. Yeah. Where nobody's going to judge you
That's it.
for being an empath or having psychic medium abilities or anything else that we, outside of this, people think we're crazy.
I know. That's why I was glad I found Crystal. And then, I realized, okay, so maybe I'm not batshit crazy.
Yeah. 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 And that's
maybe a little bit, but hey.
Yeah. And that's why I first started the show I was trying to think when I first started, what is the point of the show? Why does anybody want to listen to what I have to say? And I found that it's a way to bring people together to where they don't think they're crazy, because, I may have somebody on who had who's talking about dogmen, and then you got people out there who's had experiences, but they never told anybody. Or, and then also just having, and like I said, I don't go for the pair of celebrities. I love having people like you on who are just normal people like I am, and that are out there listening and watching, that they're like, okay, well, these are just normal people. They're not on TV. Yeah. They're not famous. They're not nothing, and they have these same experiences I do. And so, hopefully that helps people, like we're saying, not feel crazy and not feel alone or isolated, because like you're talking about, Crystal, you have families who are really religious and they think what we do is all demonic. And, and
Carol hasn't even been allowed at their house because they believe that, we talk to demons. So,
wow.
I think I'm the devil.
Yeah.
Little do they know.
Maybe a little bit.
Honey, do I know? Growing up in the Bible Belt, I completely get it.
And I think that's another thing too. You mentioned the Bible Belt, and Carol and I, we both traveled. We were in the northern states sometimes, and we were in the southern state, with us getting stationed from different bases. And then Carol's husband, he worked pipeline, so he would travel. Yeah. And they would go and live in an RV, and I'd be like, all right, I'll see you in Duluth in 6 hours, or whatever, and so, we have the hardest part, I believe, in the South, and a lot of people opening up to the paranormal in the South, and it's getting there. It's getting better. It's because it's in the Bible Belt state. You give me the North, and that's what I, told Carol. I was like, there's so much more going on in the North because they are more, accepting of this, and it's been coming a long time. It's in the South. We're still in that Bible Belt state, and they're getting there though. I think a lot of people are coming around to understanding that it's not what they think it is. We're not just out here talking to demons and
Yeah, I've never seen a demon.
Right. Yeah, me either. I have asshole spirits. If you're asshole in life, you're probably gonna be an asshole in death.
That's it. And that's exactly how we explain to it. Just because they're, mean in death doesn't mean that they're demons. That just means they were nasty when they were alive.
Yeah. Why would your personality change?
Exactly.
Yeah. And even as a gay man, I've been kind of fighting the Bible Belt my whole life.
Yeah.
So
We understand that one.
Chip on my shoulder. But I think it is changing. I think the South is changing a lot with religion and things being a lot more open. But yeah, I've gotten the demon thing many, many times. I mean, on the ambulance, I had a little granny one time point at me and say, "You're going to hell because you got tattoos." And I'm like, "All right,
we've heard that one before."
Yeah. So yeah, it's sometimes you just smile and go on about your business.
Definitely.
So y'all have been really busy lately with investigations, and you're going straight from my show here recording to another podcast.
Yeah, we are. We are going to be jumping over to another podcast here in just a few minutes, and it's just nonstop. Well, we're loving it. We started our own podcast too, so we'll have to get you on over there, Eric, with us, and chat on Paranormal Coffee Talk. But we're just we didn't really quite see how many people, were like, oh, the ghost hunting housewives. Do you know the ghost hunting housewives? Have you heard of the ghost hunting house? We were just like so humble, like what?
Yeah.
We didn't realize how many people, like all of a sudden we're getting on the news when we went to South Alabama, and I'm like, what? I was like, they don't know where I live, right?
Well, and then I saw they put the dates. I was like, how do they know? And oh crap!
Yeah, can we redact that because that needs to go away. We don't need people out here, trying to investigate with us, and we're trying to figure all this out. But in I think that was one of the reasons is that there's so much out there that people can talk about, and people are like, the ghost hunting housewives, they have no filter. Let's go have fun with the ghost hunting housewives. Okay.
That's like when we take Sean, a good friend of ours, and we take him with us, and he'll be recording. He's like, oh hell, I'm recording.
Gotta cut that out.
Gotta cut that out all night long. That's all you hear. Gotta cut that out. We're gonna be real. Yeah. We're gonna be us.
That's it.
We're not gonna put on a show.
Well, and I think that's I'd rather y'all become popular and people know y'all than fucking watch Ghost Adventures,
right?
Yeah, because at least y'all are putting real stuff out there, and you're not being dramatic or faking anything like there are a lot of people out there doing nowadays.
That's it, and I think that if there's more people like us and Miranda Young and Chris Sumner who are doing so many amazing things, and there's so many of us out there, and it's we can do amazing things, and we can all do it together. Like Miranda, that's our girl. Like 100, we love her. Ghost Biker Explorations is actually on the back of our fleet. We have it on both of our vehicles. We wear our shirts. We're proud to know the women in the paranormal communities. And we want people to have a safe space where we can all just have fun and shoot the shit and,
Yeah.
So
and I love Miranda and Dr. Chris. They're awesome. They're friends of mine, and
they're fabulous.
And I love the women in the paranormal. I've been talking about that a lot this season, and I think that it's ridiculous to think that this fucking bro culture's got to go.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
And that's it, and like I tell everyone, like Paranormal Coffee Talk, our podcast is surrounded by the women of the paranormal, but it's also about the men who support the women of the paranormal, like Brandon Cooper, you, and, Shane and Angie over in Outer Realms. Like there's so many people who have been behind us, and, like you and Eric, Eric, you and I, when we first talked on the phone last year, it was like we'd known each other. I think we talked for like 35, 40 minutes. And it was like we had known each other our entire lives because of our network and our community. And that you can tell the people who will support you because not just because you're a paranormal investigator, but because you're also a woman as well. And we're trying to make it in a field that this alpha complex, we've even gone to a Paracon where this man looked over and down on us with his alpha complex, and you're not professional. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you even here? And me, who is a very outspoken, Carol's like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And I'm like, listen.
I've grown out of my being outspoken days.
Yeah. And so Carol used to be very outspoken. She trained me well. And this guy's like, I don't mean to piss you off. And I looked at him and I said, well, you did. And I think it's time that you walk away. But behind him was standing Brandon Cooper, and we had Miranda Young, and we had multiple others who were standing there and had our six. And I think that meant more to us than anything else. Was to know that we had these amazing people in the paranormal field that were like, no, you're not going to do this to us. Even those that were putting on the Paracon were like, yeah, you're gone. We're not doing this. MC or no MC, you're gone. So, just to be able to have someone, I know that I can take care of myself, and Carol knows that she can take care of herself, and the other people that were there knew that we could as well, but we shouldn't have had to.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that situation should never happen.
Exactly.
And that's fucking ridiculous statements to say just because you're women, you don't know what you're doing, and that you can't speak intelligently about the paranormal and your experiences. That's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and Carol's out here making equipment, just like, like she does it all. She solders her own, boards and wires, and I'm just like, oh, foreign language to me. I know nothing about that. But she taught herself. She's self-taught. And she can build and engineer this stuff in her brain, even though it's old. She can do this.
My eyes are filling me.
Yeah. And so, but, it was more of, wow, they're bringing equipment and their stuff is, pretty good. So,
Yeah, I don't understand with people why there's such a threat. They feel like there's such a threat against them by anybody else in the paranormal, anybody at all. Like I say this all the time, and I put it up on my social media. I'm only in competition with myself, trying to be better than I was yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to be a legend for myself, not for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like my podcast, like I'm glad it's popular and it's gaining more and more traction, but to me, that's not what it's about. To me, that just says, okay, well, I have a bigger and bigger voice, to talk to people and to reach people. But, I'm glad that anybody listens to my show, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised I have over 100,000 downloads. Like it blows my fucking mind.
That's nice.
Because you know how to be humble.
Yeah. You're you. You're not fake.
You're not fake, and you can still be humble. And that's what we love to surround ourselves with, are those that are real. And, we look at each other and we're like, what? Like they know who we are? Okay. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you say when they're like, oh my gosh, the ghost hunting housewives, or, oh my gosh, look, it's Eric from the Unseen Pair. Like, how do you feel about that? It's like, what do you say to this? Like, how do you respond to someone saying everyone's talking about you? And we're like, really?
Is it good stuff or is it bad?
Is it good or bad? Because you just never really know.
I'll take either. I don't care. Screw them.
I also think that there's a place for all of us.
Yeah,
there is.
Like there are millions of people out there who are fans of the paranormal and of paranormal content, and it doesn't matter how many paranormal podcasts there are a million podcast listeners, millions, and so there's plenty of audience for all of us. And it's not like you can only listen to one podcast or be fans of one, paranormal team or something.
Exactly.
You can be fans of all of it. Listen to all of them. Support all of it.
Exactly. Like tonight, I was like, Eric, we got a back to back here. Like, we'll work it,
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
So,
So what do y'all have? Y'all have been busy. What do you got anything exciting coming up before we get off here?
We do. We actually have Cajun Country Paracon, and that's going to be in New Iberia, Louisiana. Carol will have our equipment there, so you can purchase that. Awesome. That's one of our big cons this year. And also, we're going to be at Scared City Presents High On Nation in Paragould, Arkansas this July with Santiago Cirillo and Oscar the Red Hat and Tony Moran. The list goes on and on and on. But Scared City Productions is actually going to put this Paracon on. So we are super excited to be headed to Paragould, Arkansas. And then we are going to actually be heading up to the old YMCA Paracon, Rock Island Paracon, this coming up October. So we're going to travel all the way up there just to be able to support this amazing cause. So,
that's
and
awesome.
then back-to-back investigations all the way up until June. And then I think we're going to take a break because it's so hot in the summer down here in the South.
Well, we're supposed to have Armageddon with cicadas this year too. So
I don't even want to hear about that, Eric.
So being outside is not going to be good for at least a month or so with billions of cicadas.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having us. And we'll have to do this again. We'll get you over on Paranormal Coffee Talk and we'll just have us a good old time. Bring your coffee or whatever it is you decide to have in your coffee cup.
Drink whatever you want. It doesn't have to be coffee.
Yeah, y'all just let me know. We'll make it happen for sure.
Sounds good, Eric. Well, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Carol and Crystal, thank you so much. All right, everybody, y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to The Unseen Paranormal. Join me next Wednesday with a brand new guest, and please rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. This helps more people discover the show. You can connect with me over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join us in the Unseen Paranormal Lounge group on Facebook. Until next time, remember, some of the scariest things are unseen.
You have come to the end of the line.